Xiong have done something very unique in the smartphone gimbal space. What's going on, guys? My name is Dan Davis and I'm the creative director here on danstube.tv. Today we're checking out the Xiong Smooth 5S AI. Quite a mouthful, but this is the AI version that has recently come out because it actually has a little camera module that operates as a standalone AI tracking module. You don't have to use their camera application to use the AI tracking features. You can use just the native camera application on your smartphone. When we look at the Smooth 5S AI, the first thing that comes to mind is just the build quality of this unique little gimbal here. It has a rubber grip, which feels great in the hand, a nice little mini tripod here that's very stable. We've got a huge wheel on the side here, and this operates as a rolling axis, so you can actually use that to roll the phone. You can then press the button, go into a zoom feature, press the button again, and then go into the manual focus mode. Now keep in mind there are two applications, which is my first gripe so far. There's the standard application, which gives you a bunch of functionality, which is the one I've been using, or you have to then use a pro application if you want to get the manual focus adjustment through the ring here. So to me, that's a little bit convoluted. There should have just been one application, and in that app, you just had the option to enable the pro mode. It shouldn't have to be you use multiple apps to either get the pro mode or the standard mode. The standard application is called ZY Cami, and it seems to do a good job, but like I said, you don't necessarily have to use their application. The thing that's really cool here is that we have this AI module. And so this isn't the first time we've seen an AI module on a smartphone gimbal, but I think they've done a really good job here. It just feels nice and high quality, nice magnetic structure to it, or system where you can actually turn it around, so you can pull that off, change the actual direction that you want to be tracking a subject. And then on the other side, we have the option to attach on a fill light here. And on top of that, this is something very unique I haven't seen from a smartphone gimbal. We have a built-in fill light here. So that then means that we have the option, if we wanted, to have a fill light here. We could then buy an additional fill light here, and then we've got 3 different fill lights. But to have 2 fill lights and then have the AI tracker is a great combination. This isn't the most intuitive system I've seen from a smartphone gimbal that has a fill light. I've seen others that will just change the color of the actual fill light itself. But with this one, you have these little strips that you can clip on magnetically, and that's how you can change the color. Now to me, this just seems a little bit odd. As you can see there, that's how you put it on. I don't know, it's just a weird system. I could imagine that these could get knocked off very easily. It also is just a little bit fiddly, but overall it's handy that you have the option to change some color tone. If you are interested in the Smooth 5S AI from Xiong, then I will have a link below. I'll have a few links below to check it out on Amazon as well as on their official website. So check those out, they will be linked below. Now, while I'm on the train of the feedback side of things, I love the build quality of the system. So we do have a USB-C on one of the motors, so that means that we can charge our phones. We then have the option to lock the motors, so you can just clip it into place, lock it into its spot, and it's nice and easy to transport. There's a great bag, so a great travel system there. I love the transparent control panel here. That honestly looks really clean. We have that same design here on the motor, and then we also have that same design here on one of the arms that connects the 2 motors together. So love the build quality, love the aesthetic here. We also have an adjustment option here, which you don't always see in smartphone gimbals. So you can loosen that and then adjust where that arm goes to. So that's really handy depending on what device you're using. This does work with all sorts of devices. It is quite a heavy duty smartphone gimbal. It's a little larger than other competitors, but I think that's a really nice thing actually, because it's got a great build quality. It feels really sturdy, and sometimes smaller isn't better. Another interesting design choice here is the mounting system where you put your phone. So if you actually want to rotate from a horizontal landscape shot into a portrait shot, you physically would have to take your phone off and then twist it into its position. To me, that's an interesting design. I don't know. And also, as you probably noticed, I just dropped one of the modules here. So you physically have to twist that to get it into either landscape or portrait. To me, that's an odd decision. I don't know if that's just a limitation of how they've designed it, but we look at competitors on the market and you can press a button on the unit itself and it will just rotate and flip. So I don't know about that one, but I found that I was just using it in landscape anyway. I never went into the portrait mode. So maybe it's okay if you're adamant that you're just going to go with one particular shooting style, but sometimes you might want to change on the fly and you don't want to have to take your phone off, adjust it, and then set it up again. Now, let me just power on the fill lights here just to show you what you're getting. So you press and hold, and you can see it is insanely bright. You're actually going to be able to light up a subject. I find a lot of competitors, they use a fill light, but it just isn't going to be able to light you up that well in certain situations. So the fact that we get a light on the arm and also a fill light here is a huge calling card. I love this. I can imagine this working in all sorts of urban environments where maybe it's really dark or you're trying to get that gritty look, but you need a little bit of light. Something like this is great. And you also have the option here to rotate this little dial, and this is how you can change the intensity of the light. So you can see I can turn it down, and that's its lowest point there. So still pretty decent. And then you can power it right up and you can see the difference that makes. So really cool to have that. And then like I've been talking about, this AI module on top does a great job. So we can just flip it around, magnetically clips on, you'll see the red light. And then all I have to do literally is I just have to point it at myself like this, do the OK symbol, and now it is tracking me. So I can move it around and it's going to continue to track me. Well, you might not be able to see, but it's got a little green light on top of the AI module. So it just lets you know, yep, I'm tracking you. And then you can do a few different gestures. So you can change the framing of the shot and you can do all sorts of things. Stopping it like this, it will pop up with the red light to let me know it stopped tracking me. Quite an intuitive system. Regardless of what software you're using, you can use the native camera application. It's just going to work because it's tracking you via the camera system here and it's hardware that's talking to the gimbal. So really smart system. I found it was pretty reliable in all the tests that I did. The other thing to keep in mind as well is there is a software tracking. So you can enable that through the application. Then you do a peace sign like this and it's going to start tracking you with almost like an active track software-based tracking. So you either have hardware tracking or software tracking, as well as 2 fill light options. So quite a feature-rich offering here in terms of the hardware and software combinations. Now, one of the hugest calling cards here is the fact that it can rotate indefinitely. A lot of gimbals will have a locking point and it will just stop. You can get sometimes just before 360, sometimes you can get a full 360 degrees. You very rarely see a smartphone gimbal that can just keep doing it. It will do this for days, and that is a huge benefit for a lot of people. Now, another thing to keep in mind is I can just change the mode into the spin shot mode, and it's going to pull the camera system down like this in this little like flashlight mode. Now, again, a lot of the time there are huge limitations here. It just caps it. So you only get like not even a full rotation sometimes. So with this, I can just keep spinning. I could do this shot for days. And again, huge benefit here and something that's quite rare in the smartphone gimbal space. Another comment about the hardware here. Overall, I've really loved everything here. The feel of the joystick, this little rotating wheel, which we can use for all sorts of functionalities. And then we've obviously got this little toggle wheel here to adjust the light and whatnot. The buttons feel great, the functionality is great. But one thing to keep in mind is when you press the mode, you see how along the top here, it has a tiny little display that tells us what mode we're in. This is all well and good in a dimly lit room like this, but straight when you're in direct sunlight, that's almost impossible to see at times. There were times that I'm like squinting to try to see and I'm like, oh, okay, it's in the point of view mode. Oh, it's in the V mode. Oh, it's in the lock mode. But you really have to squint sometimes. So just another comment of something that could be improved on is I think that could be a little bit brighter because you're very rarely going to be in a perfectly lit situation where you can see everything. And in direct sunlight, it is almost impossible to read that tiny little display there. I found the setup process pretty easy. You do have to download the ZY Cami app, and that's how you can enable some of the software tracking and some of the other features, the beauty features and whatnot. Again, you can just use it with a native camera application, but all the record buttons and the connection with the actual software features kind of locked into the application itself. But I found it to be a pretty awesome app. Bunch of functionality, bunch of features in there. You can just tap the trigger once on the back and it will lock on to the AI tracking or more of that kind of software-based tracking there. There we go. So it's got like the software tracking there. I can press the trigger again and it will stop tracking. So that's a handy little feature if you're trying to track a subject on the go. The other thing is this little wheel here. So as I start to twist that, you can see I've got it in that almost like rotating motion. So that's one of the options. I can press it one more time and that's where I get the zooming functionality, which you can see there. So that's very handy as well. And then you press it again and that's where it would enable the manual mode. But in the standard application, for whatever reason, it just does not let you use the manual mode. You have to get their pro application. So overall, this is a really solid gimbal from Xiong. This is the Smooth 5S AI. The AI, like I've said, is relating to this module on top, which is a very smart design, very reliable, had no issues with it at all. I love the fact that we get all these extra features though. The big one for me is just the actual build of it. It just feels a lot more heavy duty than a lot of smartphone gimbals I've used. A lot of them can feel more toy-like, you know, a little bit cheaper, more plasticky. I love the fact that we get the rubber grip here. I love the fact that they've gone for a bit of a larger design as well. Even the fact that you can adjust the arm up here, that's handy. And I love the fact that we get the few options, right? So we get the 2 fill lights, we get the AI tracking on top, we get the software tracking. I love the fact that it can do the 360 degree and just keep going. Infinite rotation. You can just keep spinning around. And even when you're doing that spin shot mode, again, you don't have any limitations with that. So that's the benefit of their design here, and I think they've done a really good job overall. There's a lot of other stuff to discuss and things to check out, but I think overall they're the main key features that I found while I was using the smartphone gimbal. Again, there are some things that could be worked on, there are some things that they've done really well, and I think a lot of people would be intrigued by this. I think that there's a few key takeaways, key selling points here that will definitely catch a few people's interest out there. So let me know if you're interested, if this is a smartphone gimbal that ticks some boxes for you. I know that nothing's perfect. Some gimbals have something, some have another offer. You can't get it perfect all the time. And like I said, there are a few things that are limited about this gimbal, but I'd love to know in the comments, does this have enough to make you want to grab this smartphone gimbal? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of the amazing support, and I will chat to you in the next one. Peace.